Does consciousness exist?
I'd say absolutely yes. What you are looking for is what's looking. A flow of energy and information.
Multidimensional in many ways. It's self-referencing, it's fractal, it's holographic, it's a field. It's not an emergent property of biological, physical matter. It goes to the very heart of what reality is.
Yes, definitely. I believe that consciousness exists, that there's a collective consciousness, and I'm on that path to continue finding out more and finding myself and being part of the collective consciousness that we are.
Something greater than the individual parts, and the more I let go into it and the more I allow the consciousness to flow through me, the more I can be of better service.
There's the view of science, and then there's the view of philosophy. If, from a scientific term, that consciousness is a product of matter, of the brain, it would sit in the dark, but somehow we don't know actually how it translates a physical signal, an electric signal, into an image that we see, right now. We have the other view, that consciousness kind of precedes matter. Based on Hinduism, the Vedic knowledge, the Atman is Brahman. The individual consciousness is actually part of the ultimate consciousness. And I had a moment where I was looking at the mirror, and all of a sudden, I just had this very strange feeling that the person I'm looking at, the body I'm looking at, is not truly who I am.
This idea of the observer, I feel I've always had that, the ability to, be the observer of myself. When my grandmother died, we were asked if we wanted to view her in the coffin. It was clearly still the same vessel, but it was absolutely obvious to me that who she was, who I had known, was no longer present within that vessel.
I actually lost my husband 12 years ago, and I didn't go to see him. It was very much maybe a bit of a denial that if I saw him, it made it true.
And this one lady, her husband passed away, and she chose the meteorite as a stone. She gave it to a representative, someone to represent her husband that passed away. She screamed for about 5 minutes. The representative sort of jolted and animated, and in a second she said, "It's you." She knew exactly that it was him. He's a soul spirit, and he loves her unconditionally, and she can move on.
Consciousness, then there's subconsciousness, and actually there's unconsciousness, and then there's superconsciousness. So even our own consciousness is actually fragmented.
So everything we see is an illusion. So the illusion is infinite. So the illusion is you can go to the smallest point in a microscope in science, and you keep on looking in science and microscope. You can spend your whole life looking to the stars. You're wasting your time because it's just it's an infinite illusion. How you approach this illusion is through love.
Going between infinity and zero, like being nothing and being everything. What is conscious? What isn't conscious? What kind of consciousness layers I can achieve that will help me, achieve something, into what is actually real for me internally, and how can I kind of relate that to the outer world maybe, or like how can I give something to the outer world?
The fact that you can say I is already a number compared to the all, the infinite. That's also a number. I'm a dot here and my other dot is there. So there's a reference point between what I'm looking at and who I am. And that relationship, and you could call it love, is a connecting point, It's like how we are actually connected. And the more we find the connections between my own individual dot, my own consciousness, and every other dot around me, that's when we start to connect and reconnect and harmonize. Is a dot in a circle, okay? Because in the yogic tradition, everything is based on Purusha, pure consciousness, and Prakriti, which is matter.
The center is Purusha.
Yes.
The central one could only be Atman, because eventually Brahman is everything. So anything between the center and the perimeter, and everything beyond and around and inside and outside, and all of that is Brahman itself.
Every single center in the universe, which is actually any dot in the universe, which is anything that exists, is consciousness on a journey of expressing itself. Once we start to comprehend how the structure of consciousness works, then it starts to shift something subtly in us.
God is an infinite sphere whose center is everywhere and circumference is nowhere.
We are the directors of our life, and we can change anything once we start to change the way we see ourselves and our own consciousness.